Okay, good evening, everyone. It's another busy night over here at Makar Chaim. Thank you, everybody, for coming. For those of you live and those of you on Memorex, we appreciate it. We'd love to see you all back at a certain point, Be'ez Hashem. The big, very big parsha, we could stay here all night and talk about every single pasuk, every single verse in this week's parsha, every message, every idea. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes Klal Yisrael into the Geula, into the redemption, into the tremendous redemption that we are zeichet to, the splitting of the sea, all the amazing, amazing things. I want to focus in on one part of the parsha that is based upon Maimarei Chazal, the words of our sages. And there are two statements that our sages make in different places that are very deep understanding in this week's parsha. Chazal tell us that caution, zivugin shel adam kekriyas yamsuf. One statement that the sages make is that it is as difficult to make shidduchim, to bring people together, a husband and a wife, as it was for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to split the sea. As difficult as it was to split the sea, that is how difficult it is to make shidduchim, to take man from over here, woman from over there, and bring them together. And the other statement that the sages make is that caution, mizaynaisav shel adam, that for a person to make a livelihood, to be sustained, is as difficult as the kriyas yamsuf, as the splitting of the sea. So the Gemara says in two different places this similar idea, which is very difficult for a person to understand. It's difficult to make shidduchim, to make zivugim, partners, as it was to split the sea. And it's as difficult to make parnasa, to make a livelihood, as it was to split the sea. Of course, we all understand that for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, splitting the sea was not difficult at all. It's not hard for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to change the laws of nature. It's not a difficulty for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to do something that normally doesn't happen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu normally leaves the sea together as one. And he decided at that moment, for the merit of Klal Yisrael, that they should go into freedom, that he has to split the sea. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't have to prepare himself. He didn't have to work himself up to say, could I do it? Could I not do it? I could, I think I can. Hashem doesn't work like that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is omniscient. Hashem is perfect. Hashem is all-powerful. If he wants the sea to be together, it stays together. If he wants the sea to be apart, it will be apart. So why do Chazal say the following statements? As difficult as it was for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to split the sea, that's the same difficulty that it is to make shidduchim, for a husband and a wife to meet each other and to get married. And as difficult as it was for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to split the sea, that's how hard it is for him to make your livelihood. Is there anything that holds Hashem back? Does HaKadosh Baruch Hu have any inabilities that he cannot provide you with a wife? He cannot provide you with money, with a business deal, with a profession? HaKadosh Baruch Hu do anything. So why do our sages say this very cryptic statement that there are two things in the world that are as difficult as splitting the sea, and nothing else is? And nothing else in the world is as difficult as splitting the sea. Shidduchim, we understand that's impossible. Money to make parnasa, that's impossible. Well, what about having children? That's not as impossible as splitting the sea. What about driving on the 101 freeway when it's middle of rush hour traffic and you're driving at 3 miles per hour and you can't go anywhere and you have to control your anger? That's not as difficult as splitting the sea. How is it that these are the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, or the Chazal are telling us, are difficult? And why should it be difficult? Hashem can do anything that he wants. So perhaps in order to answer this question properly, we need to examine what was exactly taking place by Kriyas Yamsuf, by the splitting of the sea. And if we'll see the dramatic moments of Klal Yisrael's going through the splitting of the sea, then perhaps we'll have an insight into what Chazal are telling us. We know that Klal Yisrael was told by Hashem, run for your lives. Makos Becharos, he killed all the firstborn. Paro says, get out of here, I don't want to see the Jews anymore. And so he sends out each and every last Jew, man, woman, child, sends them out of Egypt. And we are going, following HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like Rashi says in last week's Parsha, Zacharti la chesed noraich, I remember the kindness of the when we were betrothed to each other, says Hashem. I remember how you followed me into the wilderness, lechtech achrei be'eretz lo zarua, to a land that you had no idea what's going to be. You were carrying a little bit of matzah. You didn't know where your next meal is going to come from. You didn't know, is it going to be lodging, Airbnb, VRBO? You had no idea what's going to happen. And yet you were willing to follow me into the wilderness with great amun and bitachon. And so they're running and they're traveling through the wilderness. And suddenly Paro, the big Rasha, changes his mind. And he decides, you know what? I can't let these Jews leave. If I let them leave and they go on to freedom, and they go and they serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu on that mountain, as they've been talking about all this time, so that I'm a loser, says Paro. And I end up losing to the nation called Klal Yisrael, and I'm the most powerful king in the world. So Paro, he harnesses his carriage, his chariot, and his horse, and he gets all of his men that are left around, and they start chasing after the Yidden. Now the Jews are already 7 days beyond Mitzrayim. And within the matter of moments, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a mace. Egyptians within 3 days were able to travel what it took Klal Yisrael to travel 7 days. And they're right neck and neck, almost right behind the Jews. And the Jews now look behind them and they see the people that were making their lives miserable all these years are chasing them down. And Klal Yisrael is getting frightened. They look behind them, as the Midrash says, and they see the enemies wielding their axes and their swords, and they're on their horses, and they're coming to kill them. They look in front of them, and the sea is sagor, it's closed, there's no place to go. They look to the right, there's wild animals. They look to the left, there's snakes and scorpions. There's no place to turn. Klal Yisrael has no idea what to do at this time. There is nowhere to go. And so the Torah tells us that Vayitzaku b'nei Yisrael el Hashem. Klal Yisrael begins crying out to the Ribbono Shel Olam. Rashi explains, Tofnu umnus avoisam. They grabbed onto the umnus, to the profession of their forefathers, which was what? Avram, when he got in trouble, he davened. Yitzchak, when he needed something, he davened. Yaakov, when he needed something, he davened. That's what we do. You daven. You need something, you pray to Hashem. So they all start davening to the Ribbono Shel Olam. And then they say to Moshe Rabbeinu, why'd you bring us here? To die by the hands of the Egyptians? You should have left us in Mitzrayim. What do we need all this for? So then says the Torah the following. And it's very hard to understand. Vayoyma Hashem el Moshe. Hashem says to Moshe, Matitzak Eloi. Why are you crying out to me? Daber el bnei Yisrael, rather speak to the Jewish people by Yiso and start traveling. Just start going. Says Rashi, where do you see that Moshe Rabbeinu is crying out to Hashem? Hashem says, why are you crying out to me? Where do we see that Moshe is davening? That means that at this moment, Moshe Rabbeinu was davening to Hashem. Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem said, it's not a time to stretch out your Shmoneh Esrei right now. I don't want to hear about it. I'd rather you go and be Yiso, just start traveling and go in. Asks the Orach Chaim on these words over here of the Torah. Why are you crying out to me? Says Hashem. Who in the world is Moshe Rabbeinu supposed to cry out to? If a Jew finds himself in trouble, as we said, every Jew knows you daven to the Ribbono Shel Olam. You need something, you ask Hashem. You really need something, you ask Hashem even more. You need your life to be saved because you have Egyptians chasing after you and you have a closed sea in front of you. You daven with all your heart. Ask the Or HaChaim, why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling Moshe Rabbeinu, why are you davening to me? Who else should Moshe Rabbeinu be davening to? And then he says the following. He asked the following question. It says that tell the Jewish people to travel. And then he says, by the way, lift up your staff as well and wave it across the sea. Shouldn't have been, stop davening, wave your staff across the sea, and then let them start to travel. Obviously, the staff itself is what's going to make the miracle over here, like it did every other place. In Egypt, so we know that Moshe Rabbeinu took his staff and he waved it over here, and there was blood. He waved it over here, and there was lice. He waved it over here, and all the animals died. So take that staff that all the Jews recognize. They know that it's the miracle wand over there. Wave it over the sea. By Yisrael, and let them travel. But it's out of order in the pasuk. Hashem says to Moshe, stop davening. I don't want to hear your tears anymore. Vayisrael, tell the Jewish people that they should travel. Where should they travel? The ocean is closed in front of them. And then after Vayisrael, after they begin traveling, then I want you to wave your magic wand across the sea, and the sea will split. So the Or HaChaim asked these two things. Number one, if Moshe wasn't davening to Hashem, who in the world should he have been davening to? And number two, the order of the events seems to be out of order over here. Says the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, a great foundation over here in our faith and in the way in which we are going to behave with ourselves and towards Hashem. And he says over the following words. He asked his questions, and then he says the following. Let me explain this event of the Jewish people going through the splitting of the sea with that which is said in the Zohar. The Jewish people at this moment, they were nisunim, they were placed into a moment of tremendous judgment. Because Hashem, or the Malachim, the angel said, Ma'elu, look, the Egyptians, they serve Avodah Zarah. But Hashem, you know that for the last 210 years or 400 years that the Jews were stuck in Egypt, they were also serving Avodah Zarah. So who's really greater than who, that they deserve a miracle? V'davar yidu ki koyach harachamim humaisim toivim asher yaseh adam lamata. So if you're in a moment of strict justice, and the midas hadin, the attribute of justice, of judgment, is looming over your head, and you want to come out victorious and survive and get a salvation, you need HaKadosh Baruch Hu to act with his midah, with his trait of rachamim, of mercy. What could you possibly do at any moment where the midah of din, where the attribute of judgment is looming over you, in order to arouse the midah of rachamim? Says the Or HaChaim, it is known that when a person does maisim toivim, when they do good deeds, when they behave appropriately the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires, you bring upon yourself the midah, the trait of rachamim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu deals with you in a merciful, compassionate way, and the din, the judgment, will begin to go off. Yosifu koyach b'midas harachim, you'll add strength to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's trait of mercy. Ulehepach, and the opposite, if God forbid a person increases the wrong actions, so then you are giving strength to the koyach of din, the power of Hashem's strict judgment on a person. And he goes on and he writes the following. And he says, so therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked Moshe Rabbeinu, Ma titzak Eli, why are you crying out to me right now? Perush, ki ein hadavar toli biyadi. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whether or not I'm going to split the sea, it's not up to me right now. You're davening to me, Moshe Rabbeinu, please Hashem, split the sea. Guess what? Has nothing to do with me at this point. Hagam shani chafetz asais nes, even though I'd like to make a miracle for the Jewish people right now, kevan shem einam royim midas hadin meinaas. However, they don't deserve it. This nation over here that's running away from power right now, and they're standing on the edge of the sea, and they are frightened out of their mind. They don't trust in me that I'm going to help them. As much as I want to make the miracle, I can't make the miracle for them. They are unworthy and undeserving of it. The Omar Elav, Daber B'nei Yisrael. That's why he said, go and speak to the Jewish people right now. Perush. Do they want mercy? Do they want me to do chesed with them? Do they want me to help them through this situation? Well, they need to do something that will prove to me that they are worthy of my midah, of my trait, of rachamim, of mercy. And therefore, daber el b'nei Yisrael yisatzmu be'emunah b'chol libam. Tell the Jewish people to strengthen their emunah, their faith in their heart, with all of their heart. And they should jump into the sea before it splits. Do they want me to make a miracle? Do they want me to split the sea? Do they want me to show them what I'm capable of doing? I want to show them. I'm ready to. I love Klal Yisrael. But my dear friends, you have not proven yourself as doing actions enough worthy in this world to merit my miracles. So you need something very important right now. You need rachamim, you need mercy in your life. There's too much din, there's too much judgment. How do we get rid of the midah of judgment? Do maisim tovim. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what maisim tovim could they do right now? Torah and mitzvahs, not obligated in. They're running away from the enemies. They can't start rapping tefillin at this point. It's not going to work. What do you want them to sit down with the Gemara and start learning? There's no Gemara to learn. What could they do? There's one thing, says Hashem. If they will demonstrate to me beyond the shadow of the doubt that deep, deep down in their hearts is the purest, most riveting levels of emunah, and I see that they're willing to jump into a raging sea before the waters will split, I'll know that they trust in me. I'll know that they believe in me. And that will be the maisim tovim, the good deeds that they need to do. And it will allow me now to act towards them with rachamim, with mercy, like I never had before. Asmach habitochen ki ani yeselem nes. When I see them trusting and relying in me and making that leap of faith at this moment, I then can make the miracle for them. Through all of this, the mercy is going to become stronger. And then you will lift your staff. Perush. They should realize that it's the good deeds that they did by showing me their great emunah, their trust in me, that is what is allowing you now to wave the wand over the sea over here and create the miracles in front of their eyes. And he says the following words, Ki gadol habitachon ve'amuna, bitachon, trusting, relying in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and believing in Hashem is so great. It will push them onto the side of good. That's the way that it worked. Klal Yisrael is standing at the sea. There is midas hadin, it's hovering over them. They are stuck. There is no place to go. And Klal Yisrael cries out. And Moshe Rabbeinu cries out. And Hashem says, I can't hear your tefillas. I know that you know how to pray. I know that you think I'm going to turn everything around and I'm going to change the situation and I'll make a miracle over here. I could, says Hashem. I want to, but there's too much judgment upon you right now because the Malachim came along and they said, the Egyptians served the Avodah Zarah, idol worship. Guess what? The Jews have been serving idols all this time. The Egyptians have been living a life of impurity. Guess what? Klal Yisrael is on the 49th level of impurity. So what can we do for you? If you will elevate yourself through Maisim Taivim, good deeds, I will shift over everything right now. I'll take away the din, the judgment, and I will insert midas harachim, mercy, and will change everything, and miracles will begin to happen. Now the Gemara tells us that at this crucial moment in history, Moshe Rabbeinu gave the command, jump in, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to go. And the Gemara says, every Shevet, all the tribes are standing by the edge of the river. They say, I'm not jumping first. I'm not jumping first. No way, look how deep it is. It's so dark, you can't even see. Until, as the Gemara says over here, Kafad's Nachsha ben Aminadav. Nachsha in Ben Aminadav jumped in front of everybody. V'yored leyam techila, and he jumped into the yam, into the sea, before anybody else. And he jumps, and Chazal tell us elsewhere, the water was going up, 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 and all the tribes are watching. You see, we knew we shouldn't jump in. Look, he's gonna die. Jump up, 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 up. Up to the groin, to the throat, or under the nose, and suddenly Moshe Rabbeinu takes his staff, he goes like this, and the sea splits. And Nachshon was the first one, and he jumped in, and everybody follows suit after him. Who was the splitting of the sea difficult for? Difficult for Hashem? HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do anything that he wants. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has all the yechilos, all the abilities at his fingertips. As he says over here, I'm ready to make a nace. I can make a miracle. I just made 10 in Egypt. I can do one more over here by the splitting of the sea. This is it's not a hard trick. But says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I can't. Because you don't deserve it, you're not worthy of it. But if you'll jump in and you'll show your emunah, you'll show your bitachon, you show that you trust in me. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you bring down the mercy into this world. When there is mercy, I will make miracles. When you have mercy in your life that you create because of the good deeds that you do, I bring you the brachas that you're asking for. When a person will take his koichos, his powers, his essence, his energies, and will convert them into the proper things. I remember there was, I forget how many years ago, there was some time in Israel where there was a lot of fighting, wars going on, bombings, all different things. And it's very common for an American who feels so distant and so far away to always check the news to see what's going on with our Israeli president, what's going on over there. So in the middle of learning, in the middle of doing work, in the middle of a phone call, and you just check on the computer over there, let's see what it says. Oh, okay, Baruch Hashem, in the last 30 seconds I checked last time, nothing happened. So I realized that I was wasting so much energy on checking the news that I asked myself, is that really going to help my brethren in Eretz Yisrael survive whatever airstrikes are going on, whatever battles are being fought on the field? It's better off if I take my energy and I transfer it into saying Tehillim, into Psalms, and I have in mind that it should be a schos, a merit for the Jews that are there running for their lives, and spend my time, my idle time, looking at the computer screen. By the way, you know that our Israeli brethren, they have no idea what's going on. They don't watch the news as much as we do. They don't sit around their computer and check in every 5 seconds to see, was there another airstrike? What did the government say? What crazy COVID restrictions they have now? They have no idea. They're going about their daily activities and they're running their lives normal, serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when you take your energy and you transfer it, and you convert it, and you put it into a place that is maisim tovim, that is good deeds, says the Orach Chaim, he's basing it on the Zohar. That if a person does that, you create more rachamim, more mercy in your life, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings down the bracha. The splitting of the sea was not a challenge for Hashem. The splitting of the sea was a challenge for Klal Yisrael. Because we were the ones that had to stand at that sea on that precious night. And we had to hear the thunder of the hoofbeats of the horses of the Egyptians coming behind us. And we hear the roaring of the sea in front of us, and we hear the hissing of the snakes and the scorpions all around us on all sides. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Vayisu, go. And you have two choices. Either you say, Rebbeinu Shalom, are you crazy? Chas v'shalom to say such a thing? Or you jump in. So when a person gets to that moment in their life where HaKadosh Baruch Hu push comes to shove and you have to jump in, that's not a very easy moment in a person's life. That's not something that comes with candor and with tranquility and with ease. That is a moment in a person's life, your whole life is depending on that. And says the Gemara, they were all standing by the edge. And each one arguing, I'm not jumping first. I'm not going first. Who knows what's going to happen to us? But Hashem just said, jump in. Don't worry, it's going to work out. Nachshon came and he jumped in front of everybody else and he plunged himself into the sea and the sea split. Because when you do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you make the decision, when you push yourself in that direction, when you're willing to put your emunah and your bitachon on the line, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, oh, that's exactly what I was asking for. And then the bracha comes. It's as difficult to make zivugim, to make a partnership, a marriage between a husband and a wife, to bring these two people together. This one is born over there in that part of the world, and this one comes from that part of the world. And she has 17 brothers, he has 17 sisters, and their parents, one is this and one is that, and they're all different. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu somehow, some way, shape, and form, he brings two people together from separate parts of the world, and he puts them together under one roof, and they're going to live happily ever after. It's hard for Hashem. It's not hard for Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has nothing holding him back from bringing the woman from Paris, France, to the guy from Borough Park, New York. There's nothing holding him back. There's no flight delays in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world. There's no difficulties. There's no supply chain demand over here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a partner for every single person in this world. And he can bring it anytime that he wants. I'm ready to make the miracle, says Hashem. But it's up to you. It's up to you if you're going to bring in the midas harachamim, the attribute of mercy, into your life that is going to allow me to overlook any midas hadin that might be there. And with the rachamim, with the mercy, you will be zeichet to receive the great blessings from Hashem. Now, if we're comparing a shidduch to Kriyas Yamsuf, that means that sometimes there are things in a person's life that are big, gigantic. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, but you got to jump in and you have to start moving. I remember when I told it over recently, but when I was dating myself, I wasn't an old man, but I certainly was not young like the 19-year-olds that were getting married in yeshiva, still in their diapers. And I didn't know what to do. I was getting very frustrated. One guy after the other was getting engaged, getting married. I was going to the brisim of my friends who were making a bris for their first child. Some of them even, I think, maybe on their second child. I called my Rebbe, Rabbi Schwartz in Eretz Yisrael. I said, give me an eitzah. Give me some advice. Give me a segula, like some precious amulet or something that will help me to get married. Tell me what to do. What?
Stop dating yourself. You should date women.
Oh, so this was 22 years ago. Yeah. So
said when I was dating myself, like when I was dating,
the
way you phrased it could have been.
Got it. Okay. So he Zoom is better. Okay, fine. Now, so he said there are, I think, three things that you have to be mechazik, you have to strengthen yourself in. And if you'll strengthen yourself in those areas, the shidduch will come. You have to strengthen yourself in your Torah, in your learning. You have to, now I was sitting and learning yeshiva all day long at the time. What else do you want me to do? You have to strengthen yourself in your tefillah, in your davening. I mean, I was davening in one of the biggest yeshivas in the world, 3 davenings every day. It's not like I missed davening. And he said that you have to, what was the third thing? Maybe it was just those 2 things. Chizuk in davening, in your prayers, and your Torah and your Torah. Now, this was at a point where I was already getting a little bit older in yeshiva, and of different things, I knew that I was weak in these 2 areas. So this was right before Pesach of that year that I spoke to Rabbi Schwartz. And I made 2 or 3 small changes that were very, very big changes in my life around the Pesach time. And from Pesach, when I came back after Pesach, from Pesach until Erev Shavuos, I went very, very strong doing what I was working on. And on Erev Shavuos, which is only 7 weeks after Pesach, I met my wife. And 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, we were engaged. And another month later or so, 2 months later, we were married. If a person shakes up his life and a person takes a plunge and a person is willing to do those things that will increase the midah of rachamim, of mercy in their lives, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I can't say no to you. Because all of what you are asking for, what you want, I have it at my fingertips, it's at my disposal. You want a shidduch, I'll give you a shidduch. You need parnasa, the same thing. Parnasa, what people think, if I'm smart, if I'm savvy, I went to Wharton Business School, I'm no better than anybody else, my pulse is on the market. It's nothing. If your pulse is on the market, it's because Hashem gave you a pulse, that's why. If you're savvy and you're charismatic when you stand up before a business meeting, it's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you that charisma. So sometimes business goes, sometimes it doesn't go. But there's a shortage of money in the world. No, the government just keeps printing more and more and more. You don't have to worry about that. There's no shortage of money. There's no shortage of success stories. A person can have everything they want and everything they need. It's not going, Parnasa. It's not coming along. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's right here. I'm ready to increase your bank account right now. But I need to see from you a little bit more amunah bitachon. A little more of jumping in and taking the plunge and believing that every penny that's going to end up on this big fat check that's coming your way is because I did it, not because you did it. And if I see that amunah, and I see that bitachon, I see that trust that you have in me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I can take care of anything. Kriyas Yam Suf was difficult and challenging and hard to deal with for Klal Yisrael, not for Hashem, because there's nothing hard for Hashem. It's not like there's weights that are too heavy for Hashem to lift. He can lift anything. He can make any shidduch, he can make any parnas, he can bring any bracha to any person that they need and that they are yearning for. It's just that we have to get into that zone, into that world, into that level that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be in. And then the bracha, then the hatzlacha, then everything will begin to come to a person. There's a beautiful, really profound story. I hope I didn't tell it in this class before, but if I did, I guess we'll have to review it. Told about the adoption in this class?
It's on the WhatsApp chat.
Okay. WhatsApp share doesn't count because most people don't listen anyway. Fine. Apparently you do though.
Yeah. Very good start.
There was a couple that was living in America. We'll call them Mordechai and Rivka. And they got married. And of course, as they stood under the chuppah, they had all of the greatest dreams and aspirations and hopes for a beautiful life, for a wonderful life, for a large family. 1 year led into 2, into 5, into 10, into 15. And although Baruch Hashem, they were very happily married, they were missing one major part in their marriage, and that was they had no children. And they had gone to all the doctors that they could possibly find. They did all of the treatments that were available. And after 15 years, still not a child. They traveled to Eretz Yisrael. They went to all of the great tzaddikim, all the great rabbanim of the generation. They received brachas, blessings that they should have children. They went to all the kivei tzaddikim, the graves of the holy tzaddikim that are no longer around in this world. And they prayed with all of their heart and all of their soul. And after 15 years, there were no children. Someone told them about a big expert in Manhattan. And this doctor is the one that can do anything. He's the last hope that they have. And so they go to him, they bring all of their paperwork from all of the years, tell him about all the treatments that they've gone through. And the doctor looks at everything and he says to them, there's nothing that I can do for you. I looked at all of your results. I looked at everything. There's nothing that I can do for you. They were devastated, of course. The wife was a tenacious young woman. And she said to her husband, you know what? If HaKadosh Baruch has decided that we cannot have children of our own, at least let's raise a child as if it is our own. I think we should look into adoption. And the husband said, it's a great idea. But here in America, it's very hard to find like a purebred Jewish healthy baby. Well, how can we be sure? She said, no, there's an agency in Eretz Yisrael. And the adoption agency in Eretz Yisrael has only Jewish children. I say that we contact them, tell them that we're interested. Let's see what they have available. So they go home from the doctor, they get the number, they call the agency in Eretz Yisrael, and they say, listen, this is the way that it works. We do only have Jewish children, and we know that it's purebred Jewish child. When there is a mother that is about to give birth, we give you a call. You must get on a plane immediately, come to Eretz Yisrael, fill out all the paperwork, sign everything, and then with Hashem's help, you can take this baby into your arms and you can fly back to your home in America and you can raise him. Will you be able to come quickly? Yes, whatever you say, we'll be able to come quickly. Now they're getting very excited. And they're waiting day after day. They would even call once in a while, checking in. And they said, you know what, there's a woman. She came to our agency the other day. She's about 7 months pregnant. She says she can't keep the baby. You're at the top of the list. When she's getting ready for labor, don't worry, we're going to call you. And sure enough, a couple of months later, in the middle of the night, the phone rings. It's the adoption agency. Mordechai Rivka, the woman is going into labor. Come, please come. They wake up, they make the calls, they book themselves tickets, they get on the first flight out to Eretz Yisrael. From the airport in Ben Gurion, they go straight to the adoption agency. They get there, they're excited, everybody's excited to see them, and they hand them a very thick application that they have to fill out. And Mordechai takes it and begins working it out feverishly, going from one to the other, every question. And suddenly, after maybe an hour or so of working on the application, he just stops writing. And he's looking at the page in front of him. And he's not writing anymore. And his wife sees it. She walks over. She says, Mordechai, what's the problem? He said, this question over here is the problem. I can't answer this question the way that we want me to. She said, well, what's the question? And the question is, do you promise to love this child more than anyone in the world? So he says, how can I promise to love this child more than I love Hashem? I love HaKadosh Baruch Hu more than anyone in the world. I'm not going to be able to love this baby more than I love Hashem. I can't answer it. I can't answer yes. She says, well, let's go talk to the lady behind the desk. Maybe if you fill out everything else, fine, one question, they can let it slide. So he comes to the lady, he says, I'm sorry, this question over here, I can't say yes. Because I'll never love anyone as much as I love Hashem. And this is after, mind you, 15 years of not having children. And still his ava, his love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu was exceedingly great. And the lady said, listen, mister, if you don't write yes, we can't give you the child. Just, okay, we know what you mean. You in your mind, you say that you're going to love Hashem more. Just write yes on the paper. You can walk away with a child. I can't lie about that. I can't even lie that I would love this child because I wouldn't say that to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no one that I love more or will ever love more than Hashem. She said, well, if you can't sign yes, you're not going to have a child. So he sits back down and he's looking at the application. And his wife, the tzaddikus, walks over and she says, Mordechai, you write whatever you need to write so that you will be happy with this situation. And if the answer is that we will not have a child to walk home with, I'm okay with that. So Mordechai closes the application and he walks over to the desk and he hands it back to the woman. And they walk out of the adoption agency and that's it. They'll never have a child. As they walk out of the doors and they're both lost in thought, the wife goes off to the right side of the staircase. The husband goes off to the left side. And at that moment, the wife lets out a tefillah from the deepest parts of her heart that she ever davened before. And she says, Ribono shel olam, you know that all that my husband and I want is to have a child. And you know that we tried everything over the years. The doctors didn't help. The rabbi's brachas didn't help. The davening didn't help. Nothing helped. This was our last chance to bring home a child in our arms that we could call our own. But we love you more than we love anybody else, and we can't say otherwise. So I'm begging you, Hashem, I'm begging you, you're the only one that can do it. You give us a child. And she's standing there davening and davening and davening. And her husband is davening away. And in silence, they got back into the taxi and they went to the airport and they flew home. And yes, 9 or 10 months later, the wonders of wonders and the miracles of miracles. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent them a healthy baby boy, all of their own. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, am I powerless? Do I have limits? Are there things that I can't do? I can do anything, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anything. You name it, I could do it. But sometimes I cannot bring the blessings or the miracles because there's Midas Hadin that's hovering over a person. You need to instill within inside of yourself the actions that are Maisim Toivim, that are good deeds. The Torah, the mitzvahs, the davening, the Amunah, the Bitachin, and that will create Rachamim, mercy on you. And when the need of Rachamim, when the trait of mercy comes upon you and pushes the judgment and the justice out of the way, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then I'll bring the miracles. Just as you ordered them to be, just as you asked. We live in such a world where everybody needs brachas in their life. Everybody needs miracles in their life. Everybody needs Yeshuas. Everybody needs salvation in their life. Everybody needs something. There's not a person who doesn't need anything in this world. And perhaps what the Torah is telling us over here is that the difficulty of Kriyas Yamsuf was not the difficulty of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu could do or could not do. For him, it's all easy. The difficulty of the splitting of the sea was, can Klal Yisrael jump in and say, yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I trust in you and only you. You'll take care of everything. And when a person does do that, when they do jump in, the sea splits, you go straight through, you turn around, the enemy is gone. They're not chasing you anymore. May we be Zeicha Im Yetza Hashem that whatever Yeshua is a person needs, whatever salvation, whatever bracha is a person is yearning for in their life, whatever nisim and iflois, miracles and wonders that a person desires, may the great efforts that we make in increasing our maisim toivim and our amud and our bitachin in the Rebbeinu Shalom, may that be the schus, the merit that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking for. May bring in the midas harachamim, the attribute of mercy, into our lives. And then as HaKadosh Baruch Hu split the sea, which allowed Klal Yisrael to go to the ultimate geula, now HaKadosh Baruch Hu bring each and every one of us our own personal geulas, our own personal redemptions in this world, which will itself lead to the ultimate geula with the bias goyal tzedek b'imhei Rabbi Amenu.